This is Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com. The Florida primary is behind us, and now the question is, and it's been raised with me, especially by a lot of the international news media. I did a lot of interviews and a lot of Skype video interviews with networks in Venezuela and in Uruguay, as well as with CNN and Espanol. Is this the end now of the primary season? Mitt Romney won in Florida, and so he is now the guy who's going to win the contest and get the 1,140 delegates necessary to be nominated as the Republican candidate for president. That's how a lot of the news media seems to be playing it. That's how a lot of political consultants have been spinning it. Well, Mitt Romney is the only guy who really has the money to go forward, and this is pretty much, you know, he's ahead now and so on, and the other candidates, you know, are going to drop off. Well, I disagree with that. Mitt Romney doesn't even have 100 delegates yet, and out of 1,104 delegates. So in terms of delegate count, he is nowhere. Number two, the other contestants in this race want to keep pushing Romney. They want to stay in, they want to get their message out. In some cases, it's a political message, and it's a real, let's call it ideological position. That would be the case with Rick Santorum, who wants more faith-based content in the Republican Party. He is a Christian conservative who built his campaign on family values, on prohibiting abortion, on prohibiting gay marriage and some of those issues. And he really wants to keep selling that message and giving Republicans a choice who feel that that is the most important thing that the Republican Party can do. A second contender is Ron Paul. Ron Paul is on a mission, and the mission is freedom. The mission is Ron Paul continuing to get support from and to support his constituency of very passionate supporters who have stuck with him. Some have been with him for 4 and 8 years. They believe in more freedom, less government, a much more isolationist foreign policy. Those are things that none of the other candidates are speaking about at all. He wants really smaller government, has always voted for it. And Ron Paul, for some reason, appeals to younger voters. They follow him like acolytes. They love the idea of the Ron Paul revolution. And in their case, they will raise money for him. He can go on and on and on. They really have a passion for him. I'm not sure that's true with Rick Santorum. He says that he raised some money in the last few weeks, but I have a feeling that money issues are going to be a little more serious for Rick Santorum. And then there's, of course, the other big problem for Mitt Romney, and that is Newt Gingrich. Now, Newt Gingrich, I think, is in this for the long run because he's very ambitious. He's in it for the long run because he really loves to talk about some of his grand ideas. He wants to build an American station on the moon. He wants to invest huge amounts of money in brain research to try and find a cure or a prevention for Alzheimer's. And he really has these great ideas that he wants to promote. But there's a second reason why Newt Gingrich is in this race against Mitt Romney. And that is that he really doesn't like Mitt Romney. He blames Mitt Romney and his big political action committees for defeating him in Iowa. He blames him for negative campaigns that were launched by the Mitt Romney organization against Newt in New Hampshire. And he relished in the idea that in South Carolina he defeated Mitt Romney and thinks that he has the possibility of resurrecting himself again. That would be the third time. Honestly, I've talked to people. I happen to know all the candidates because I've met them at some point or another, but these people know them intimately. And they say that Newt Gingrich really hates Mitt Romney. He really resents him. He really feels that his chance to become the president of the United States was derailed by Mitt Romney and his millions of dollars. He just doesn't like where Romney comes from. He especially doesn't like the fact that Mitt Romney changes his position on issues, and that has been rewarded with Mitt Romney not coming out of Florida with a win. And so the question that was asked by several of the media that interviewed me was, yeah, but Newt Gingrich is kind of running out of money. Well, you know what the answer is there? Newt Gingrich is a very wealthy man. He has made millions of dollars since he was in Congress with some very clever consulting groups and production companies. He gives expensive workshops and seminars, and he has big bank accounts. If he really wants to pursue his crusade, which is what I'm calling it Newt's Crusade, he can go to his local bank and he can write a check to himself and he can finance his campaign all the way to June. It's not very expensive. He can drive around in the big bus they have. He can give some speeches along the way to business groups and others and rake in some big chunks of money between primaries and caucuses. And I have a very strong feeling that Newt Gingrich is going to chase delegates all the way to the last primary and caucus. And it is going to be very difficult for Mitt Romney to gather the pledge of 1,104 delegates until very late in the process. By that I mean until April at least, and maybe May and June, depending on how many delegates Newt and Santorum and Ron Paul essentially suck away from Mitt Romney. Because remember, this year many of the primaries and caucuses allocate delegates proportionately. So if you win 20% of the vote, and that's, you know, third place, you may still get 20% or something like that of the delegates. It's not winner take all. There are a few winner take all contests coming up. Arizona, for example, is like Florida, so whoever wins gets all the delegates, but the others are not. And so the candidate with the tenacity, with the passion to continue on, gets bonuses, and that is if he does okay, not win, but just do okay in these next many contests, because we've only had 4 and there are 50 states. That candidate gets rewarded because you can pick up delegates along the way. That's also true of Ron Paul. I mean, he can also pick up delegates. Every single delegate that Santorum, Ron Paul, or Newt Gingrich get in any of the contests, starting with Nevada, which is the next one, and then Minnesota and Michigan and Arizona, every delegate that those 3 get is a delegate that Mitt Romney is not getting. And therefore, it's a delegate that will delay the moment when Mitt Romney finally gets enough delegates to be the nominee or to have that pretty well locked up. So I predict a prolonged campaign with 4 candidates, maybe just 3, but I don't think that Mitt Romney is going to become the inexorable and clear winner just because he did well in Florida. His negatives among many Republicans are still pretty high. You have to remember that Mitt Romney didn't even get 50% of all the votes in Florida. And so there are people who don't like him because he's not conservative enough. There are people who don't like him because he's a Mormon. There are people in the Republican Party who don't like him because he has a lot of baggage with his Swiss bank accounts, with his great wealth and Cayman Island accounts. And they're concerned that that will give the Obama team ammunition in November. And those people who don't view him as conservative enough and who maybe don't like his Mormon religion either, are probably not going to support him. They may support him if he eventually becomes the nominee because they probably dislike Obama even more. But they would like Sarah Palin and several others who have come out in favor of Newt Gingrich, including Herman Cain. They would like to see an option to Mitt Romney. So they're the sort of anybody but Mitt Romney supporters. I think the news media is deceiving you, and I'm telling you more or less the truth here, when they fail to report and they can't really get this information that Mitt Romney's Mormon faith is still a very big obstacle to a lot of people supporting him. People are not willing to say that. There are some who will, but most people just say, well, he's too much of a Massachusetts liberal, or he's not strong enough on budget cuts, and he supported Massachusetts Romney Care and so on. But many of them really are saying, I just can't support a Mormon. And I think that may also, therefore, add to the delay of Mitt Romney's final victory over the others. And I suspect that there will be a final victory. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he is the one who is going to get the nomination when the process is over. I think he has a ton of money. He has a lot of support from the establishment Republicans, and he looks presidential. He's gotten much better in debating and in dealing with the news media. He's loosened up, and so he does have a lot of the characteristics. But it's not going to be easy for him, and I've explained to you why that's the case. This is Stefan Schmidt for InsiderIowa.com.